Hello and welcome to the channel, to Shelf Centered. Guys, it's been crazy here. I cannot believe this. We're at 3,000 subscribers. I wanted to celebrate with some friends here, some friends that are new friends, some friends that have been with me for ages. Just wanted to make sure that I just had a really good excuse to just make a bunch of people that that I've interacted with have to join me and have some fun here. So do we just lose somebody or
probably go in order?
He was like,
sense.
I'm out of here.
I know. It's like, wait,
you guys, I'm going home.
The wrong stream.
Losing.
Hey, and Candles and Kicks, I sent you to your email a link if you want to jump on. So
I love that name.
Your email. But anyway, let's just want to introduce everybody. Alicia, if you want to go first, just say a couple things. Obviously, it goes without saying, subscribe, buy their books, absolutely all the things. This is authors, it's reviewers, it's just people that love the same stuff, science fiction, fantasy, and other books too, as I understand from Alicia. So go for it.
Hi, I'm Alicia, Birdie in the Books. You can call me Bird because it's a family nickname. That's how I got my channel name. But I read a little bit of everything. I read sci-fi, I read classics, I read romance, I read fantasy, I read everything. So it's hard when people ask me to sell my channel. I don't focus on one thing. The main thing on my channel is author interviews, discussions. So if you want to dive deep into a book and hear authors talk about their craft, I'm the channel for you.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Thank you. So awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on because that's what I was like. You're a new channel to me. And so I was just like, hey.
I was just surprised you asked me. I'm like,
compared
to everybody else you asked, I'm the smallest person channel-wise on here.
No, I don't. I only see it we're all at different stages, right? Like, yeah. That's all.
We're all tiny. It's fine.
I've been doing this for way too long, and then that's the only difference, really. Spencer, I've been on Spencer's channel a couple times now. Spencer, go for it.
Hey, what's up? I'm Spencer from the Fantasy Files podcast, and yeah, we talk about fantasy books, as you might imagine. We've kind of branched out over the years. We've been doing it for about 3 years now, and we kind of started off just talking about a book a week, and then we branched out into doing author interviews and bringing on other content creators. I think we're having Bryce on soon for a content creator interview. And we talk about movies, video games, kind of everything in the nerd culture area. And yeah, it'd be great if you guys would like to come check us out and hang out with us. We have a Patreon that we put exclusive content on as well. And I'll also, quick plug real quick, on our channel, we currently have a giveaway going on for the next about like 20-something days, where if you are a new subscriber and comment on the video, you get a free ebook. We have a list of them that were given away from several authors that were nice enough to donate our books. We're trying to hit 1K subscribers, and we're really, really close. So if you guys would like, go check out. It's one of the first, most recent videos on our page, and you can get a free book for subscribing. So.
Dude, nice. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, Joe, J.R. Carroll, one of the Joes that I have done a lot of streaming with that are both here today. Not as much as I should have because I was a slacker. Dude, here we go. There we go. So we'll get to there we go. Thanks for coming on. So J.R. Carroll, I'm gonna use your author name, all right? Because I've read his book. It's amazing. It's so good. And the series, that's on my TBR for this year. So go for it if you want to take the stage here.
Yeah, Joe, my author name is J.R. Carroll. You can find my channel at J.R. Carroll. I'm really here, trying to support, on my lunch break, Bryce, who is amazing. Bryce, who is amazing. I heard that, he just crossed 3,000, and a wise man once told me, you never know, it could happen. Yeah.
And you also crossed 3,000 yourself, right?
Just trailing behind you there by a little bit.
I've been barely like eking ahead. Like I've seen yours is just like you're about to pass me. Like
he's like a bug behind a semi truck, just like right behind.
Yeah,
there.
I'm just trailing you. I'm just gonna follow you the whole way, all the way to the top.
Oh, fantastic. Man.
Oh man, well thank you so much. Thanks for using your lunch break. I'm sorry you have to work right now. I'll actually be working after this, so I'm at my office. The ultimate kahuna. Not the big kahuna, it's the ultimate.
No, Big Kahuna was taken already. I'm like, I need something that can go across all the platforms, and this is it.
All right, well tell everyone about yourself if you don't mind.
My channel started off mostly talking about things within the Iron Age, kind of this group of, it's just a term we've come up with to describe the indie movement, where us, the smaller folk, have the ability to supersede and go beyond the mainstream and all of the kind of publishers and stuff that are more gatekeeping, the kind of stories that we want to tell. And so that's what been the main focus of my channel. And I've really enjoyed kind of covering things like that. Everything from gaming to music to books and movies even. It's been really exciting. And yeah, even fun stuff like an anime taste stream where we yell at people for having bad taste for a couple of hours. It's a great time.
I just saw some of your shorts where you're like doing the anime scripts. Well, thank you, man. Thank you. All right, Thomas writes, we've been planning, and I've been terrible at getting back to him. I've been planning to try to get together with Thomas for some time. And as the Joes know, I'm terrible to schedule things with. Thomas, what's up?
It's not a problem, man. It's hard to keep up with the YouTube grind. But yeah, so my name is Thomas White, and my channel name is Thomas Writes. It's funny, I actually created the channel name like 3 years ago and thought, maybe I'll do something with it one day, and just kind of hung on to the name, and then finally a couple of years ago started doing content. I mainly cover science fiction and fantasy books, more emphasis on sci-fi than fantasy, but I do like both genres. And lately I've also started branching out, covering a little bit of movies and stuff like that. But I'm a sucker for really good writing, and I also am very annoyed by bad writing. So that is what I mainly talk about.
Well, there's a lot to talk
channel.
about, isn't there?
Yes.
I was just watching your the Zack Snyder, the Rebel Moon take. I thought it was really well done. Just your whole, obviously the whole like video, but like
his take. Yes, his take was probably very good. Talking about the movie for a second.
It's funny because with that movie, it's, I had primarily stuck to books, and I had thought, okay, I'm just going to stick to that. And honestly, there were so many things about that movie that just drove me up the wall. I'm like, I have to talk about this. I got to break out of my typical content. I just have to get my thoughts out on this. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you.
It's so good. It was so good.
What I'll say, Thomas, is rage is a very powerful motivator.
Yes. Certainly.
I know, right? That's true. How many things are that way? And what's funny is I did Shelf-Centered. I came up with this brilliant name year, and I had to like claim it, and I had it for like a solid year before I did anything with
I
it.
subbed to you, story time. I subbed to you seeing your name and not watching any of your content like a while back. I was like, that's a funny name, click. And then I eventually watched some of your content.
Right.
Sorry, there we go. Brian just popped in for a sec. I know that the Hollywood scores are getting bigger. JCM Byrne, the other Joe, not the other Joe, I mean the first Joe. The other Joe's the other Joe.
So many Joes. A tremendous amount of Joes.
I have like 1/20 of the subscribers of you guys. JCM Byrne, I wrote Hybrid Helix, book 5 is coming this summer. And partial
Seriously good. Wistful Ascending, absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
I purchased the audio last week.
Oh, sweet. Thank you so much. I hope you
Is it on Audible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Book one only. I'm like trying to raise the 10 grand to get the other ones done. And,
It's a lot.
pesky mortgage payments keep getting in my way.
Those pesky things.
That is so true.
I have a Patreon, but for the free tier, you get everything I offer, which is I publish a weekly e-zine called Grim Dwarf Magazine, where I put in a couple stories, some serialized stuff, all fantasy, and that's just free because apparently I had too much time. I am drinking a Belgian Kolsch today in honor of Bryce's, which I haven't
Thank you.
tried
There we go.
this morning.
Yeah.
Because someone's got to booze it up.
I wish.
And I'm volunteering myself.
Yeah,
Joe,
why aren't you?
because he's driving.
You know what? Might as well. Just get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, well,
Someone needs to keep those statistics, level. We got to keep it. That's not right.
oh man, David DeCero, dude, one of the OGs that like featured my channel when I first started, and I am forever grateful. Just one of the funniest guys. I love. If you haven't checked out his just hilarious content, oh my god, you're missing out. Wheel of Time stuff, Stormlight Archive. And just all around great guy. David, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Bryce? First of all, congratulations on hitting 3K. So well deserved. I've been watching your channel, I feel like, since the beginning. And I was
You
like,
have. You've been there.
he's a good creator. People need to go subscribe. And it's good to see you, finally hit that 3,000 mark. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My name is David Desero, and I make a lot of bookish memes. Occasionally, I'll throw out like a video essay, something a little more serious. But for the most part, it's a lot of nonsense over on my channel. So if you're interested in that, definitely go check that out.
We may be brothers.
Just happy to hang out today.
Well, thanks, man. No, that's what I love. That's my, it's you got to have the healthy amount of nonsense. That's what the internet was created for, I feel like. All right. One of my favorite new channels has been Kindles and Kicks. You got to subscribe if you haven't already. Go for it, my man.
Oh, man. Thank you, Bryce. Hey, I'm Darko. Yeah, new channel, Kindles and Kicks. I started this year in January, and it's been wonderful being a part of the BookTube community. I mean, everybody's so welcoming. And Bryce has been one of my #1 supporters and cheerleaders. I've been a fan of his a long time. I subscribed as well because of the name. I thought the name was super cool and clever.
Branding is important, man.
Yes.
It's like a good book cover.
Yes, exactly.
It's disappointing sometimes. You get a good book cover, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
No, and I'm primarily focused on fantasy and sci-fi books. I'm a sole e-reader person, so that's why Kindles, and I love sneakers. Like books and sneakers are my favorite things in the world. So
Yes,
Kindles and Kicks, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh man, what are the current kicks right now, though?
Right now I'm heavy on Fear of God Adidas, which is a new athletic brand, and I'm a fan of Yeezys. They're very comfortable sneakers, and despite Kanye West and what people feel about him, I love his shoes.
There you go.
You can dislike the man and like his music or his a brand, man. It's how it goes sometimes.
True.
Unfortunately.
True. Yeah.
That's what I'm counting on.
That's funny. And in my ripe old age, it's like comfort.
Is ripe the word we want to use here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, well, I look at that. I love the chat's just been so kind and so nice. Anyway, I just brought I kind of had just some stuff to kind of randomly talk about, and some topics that I thought we'd get into. Ultimate Kahuna, you mentioned indie books, and I thought there's just been like this kind of cool. Like I feel like we live in this golden age of indie books. I know I've talked with a number of you already about indie books. Yeah, there we go. Oh man, everybody. Yes, exactly.
Oh, jeez.
Is that some P.L. Stewart too, and some Johnny Douglas? Is that what I just saw?
Yeah, the Lord
Oh, man,
Otter,
great-
Herman P. Hunter,
great
there's a
authors.
whole bunch up there.
I just
He's
thought
awesome.
that, I've had this kind of with there you go. With Beard of Darkness, had some of that. We got some indie authors here today, which is just awesome. Guys, what do we even do we need that? I guess sorry, just checking, making sure I got the right things. All right. Do we need a label of indie authors? Is it just authors at this point?
It should be.
I feel like top 100 list. Like I was just like, didn't matter. It was indie. It was traditional.
If I'm making like a top 10 of the year, I won't label them separately.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
I think as time goes on, indie, Iron Age, whatever you want to label it, is going to become the preferred kind of tag to be searching up new and exciting books to read as time goes on.
Yeah.
It's like you can find good stuff in the mainstream, but if you're just grabbing one randomly out of the pack, probably not going to be for me, honestly.
Yeah, I think in recent months, or maybe even just the past year, I have paid less attention to whether somebody is indie or not. I'll usually pick up a book based on whether it like just sounds good from people talking about it on Twitter or YouTube or whatever recommendations I've gotten. And there's been several books that I've picked up in the past year where I just started reading them because I found them on Audible or whatever, and I had no idea that they were self-published. And then there's other ones where it's like they're more of like a well-known, like, yeah, this is self-published or whatever, and you kind of go into it knowing that. But I feel like the first couple years of our podcast, I paid very close attention to like who was self-published and who wasn't, and now I just kind of pick up books and I don't really notice it most of the time.
Yeah. And like we all have our people that we kind of follow as well. It's like whether they're indie or not. Like Pierce Brown is a very mainstream author, but I'll buy any book that man writes at this point. So.
Right.
Oh yeah.
No, and I just feel like because I don't know, on like Amazon the where you could just like get the subscription. I don't think a lot of people even notice the difference, right? Like frankly, like. If you're just downloading, hey, whatever looks good, you can't tell a lot of times if it's traditionally published or indie published.
That's how I found a lot of indie authors, was through my Kindle Unlimited subscription.
Right.
Yeah.
Same for me.
Yep.
See,
yeah, I think
I've been trying to get into the whole Kindle reading thing, but it's the hardest way to read for me, honestly.
I do read slower on Kindle than I do with anything else.
That's fair. And there are more people like you reading more and more Kindle like related works. For me, I don't have a Kindle. I have a cell phone, so that's my
reading on the cell phone sucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it.
Yeah, my biggest problem is just like it's the lack of focus. It's the text comes in or the other thing comes in.
That's why I can't do it.
I have to have, if I have a Kindle, it's got to be like I have a Paperwhite. It doesn't have any connection.
Do not disturb.
Like it's got to be that way. What about you, Darko? What do you like? Because you're a big like Kindle only reader. Like what's the benefit?
Share your wisdom.
Well, with Epic Fantasy, I really appreciate that it's easy to search for characters. Because, like, if you read a series that's like multiple books, and sometimes you forget, at least I do, where this character came from, what their origin story is, and you can just search their name and head back to wherever place they started and kind of refresh your memory, which is what I really. And it's easier to take notes with the Kindle, in my opinion.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because it's all right there, right?
Right.
I wanted to welcome Davis Ashura. Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate you coming here. Speaking of, we were talking indie books here for a little bit. You may have something to say about that. I don't know. But we already introduced everyone. But what if you don't mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Davis. I write epic fantasy novels. I guess that's all I need to say, right? In here of some sort.
Davis and I, actually, it's a funny connection. We go way back. We both were members of a community back in 2008 or 9.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, so it's called SFF World. Like I was, just on, it was back. I don't know. I don't think there was a ton of booktubing going on or anything. I don't even know if YouTube when that even started, but it was like
a forum.
The way is a forum.
I think I've heard of it before. Actually.
And a way to just connect with other people, because again, the whole problem and why a lot of times that if you sorry, just a notification came up and I'm like, it's telling me we have so many people on here that it's awesome. You might need to upgrade again.
And sure, so if there's more people, some of us could cycle out at some point as well.
Yeah.
I'll have to bounce here in 5-10 minutes. So
and
if you have,
we're all
good.
Flexible, and you guys, I don't want to take up your whole day either. So I just cannot thank you guys enough for coming. But I don't even know what I was talking about at this point.
SFF World.
SFF World. And so anyway, it was just I remember just searching the internet for top 10 books, and I was looking for more. I was just discovering kind of my love for really diving into epic fantasy, and that's where I just would see. And I remember going through SFF World has this had a whole thread. It was the forum So a whole thread of like everybody putting their top 10 lists, and I was like, look what I'm going to do. And I started writing down like the ones that I saw, just a ton, right, and like a ton of different like top 10 lists. And that's, you know, and that just got me started. So then oh, look, there's another thread. And so anyway, but that's why I was just like, Davis, oh my gosh, like we've like literally connected then. Like, it's so cool to see all your success. And how, you know, you just had that big like ebook like deal. You did a bunch of free books. How'd that go?
That was pretty awesome. So it was my 10-year anniversary as a published author on January.
Wow, good for you, man.
Congratulations.
Or 6, something like that. And so, well, thank you. I just decided to make all my books free, except I had a new release that day. So I released the new book and made everything else free for a week. And I think I had 32,000 downloads or something like that. So
That's amazing.
It was a pretty shocking number. Whether anybody reads that is a different question.
I always kind of wonder about that. How, like, for those of you who write, how do you feel about occasionally giving if something is like you should give a portion of your work away for free if that's part of your marketing strategy. But I always worry about giving away too much.
It's gotten worse over time.
Well, I mean, my view is I've heard some people talk about this, and I forget his name, but there was a really popular, successful self-pub author. And he said, he was like, why would you be afraid to give your book away for free, especially if you're just starting, right? Why would you be afraid to give your book away? Is if you have, say you give it away and 100 people download it. Well, that's not 100 lost, sales. That's possible people who may buy your other books in the future. Mm-hmm. And if your goal is to become a full-time writer, you're going to have to sell tens of thousands of copies to achieve that, right? So what's giving away a couple of 100 free books?
The only argument the only argument I've really heard against it is that people, if it gets something for free, they don't value it. A lot of people will download a book and then not read it. So that's maybe the only counterpoint I could come up with shorthand. But yeah.
Well, to me, that comes into play is the reason why I don't put my books at 99 cents. I know a lot of romance authors will just 99 cents. Let's get them out the door, Mm-hmm. But like, I think the value comes into the price of especially the ebook. But some of these ebook prices are crazy. Like some of these tread pubs are like $13.99 for an ebook. Are you crazy?
I can buy a paperback. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you could buy my paperback for that.
Insert self there.
Like Ryan Cahill made his career on giving away free books, and now he's a full-time writer, right? So it used to work. My suspicion is that it's gotten harder over the years. There are more free book chasers who just like to download, have things on their Kindle. They're almost like collectors. But the people I know who have been releasing free books in the last couple of years, for the most part, find they get very few reviews or sales from it.
Yeah.
John, that might not have been Kahuna's fault.
That's so funny, John.
I just saw the comment.
John, I'm on the government watch list for an entirely different reason.
Yeah.
I hate to break this to you.
Oh god, that's great.
My trick is I give away my second book for free.
It's usually first or second. That's a good choice.
You got to buy the first to get.
There you go. But 2 for 1.
Yeah.
You got to buy the first one, right?
Someone got mad at me on Twitter. They're like, "But now I have to pay for the first one." I'm like, "Yeah."
Exactly.
I can attest to that. There's been more than a couple series on Audible where it's like, oh, this month this book is free on Audible or whatever. I'm like, oh, let's check it out, and I go to download it to find out it's the second or third in a series, and I'm like, well, but it sounds interesting now, so I guess I'll get the first two. It's happened.
Made you look.
Well played.
Well played.
Now we're talking.
Also, Alicia, you were going to say something about this earlier. I didn't hear what you had to say. Sorry.
About book pricing?
Yeah.
I saw, my friend is a cozy mystery author. They're selling her ebook for $23, and her hardcover is $29.
Wow.
And it's less than
Yikes.
300 pages.
Whoa.
And I'm like, what is going on? I don't.
And you know, like I studied, like my undergrad is in economics, right? And so I know like price discrimination, and books are usually like the go-to, or at least were back in the day, the go-to for like price discrimination, right? That's why hardcover isn't really like that much more to like put together than like a paperback, or you know, it's not like that much, but the value seems that much more, and so you can get when you put out the most expensive one first, right? And that's so the people that can have it as soon as possible. And sometimes that makes sense with that like Kindle price, because again, I'm like, I do like authors making money. This is like
right. That's why I feel bad. Like she deserves the money, but $23 for an ebook.
But that does seem like ridiculously steep. I'm like, are you trying not to sell books at that point?
Right.
Right.
But,
Well, I think it's specifically this publisher.
Like I'm also thinking the publisher's taking a bit more off the top when it's that price that
right,
high.
exactly.
Also.
You know
100%.
Exactly. Is it really going to the author at that point? 100%. And that's where I'm going. Well, again, why I love indie authors. Then you guys get everything.
Right.
That's the good thing. You know, and obviously you got to pay for everything too. But I don't know. That's what I've always thought of. Like I get, but it does feel like a lot of times though that Kindle price will stay at some ridiculous price, and you're like, it does make sense to kind of fluctuate it, or are they playing the game of I'll get on the the daily deal for Amazon and then get it back up and. Anyway, I've thought about this too much or not enough. I don't know, but
sometimes it's cheaper just to buy the paperback. Like I've done the.
Right.
It's cheaper to buy the paperback with some of these e-copies, and I know that's not the author's fault, but it's frustrating.
And plus, like when you have the Kindle copy, you have the book, but when you have the physical copy, in some ways you have art. You have something you can display, something nice to look at. Even if you run out of room and you have to sleep underneath your books like an animal.
I agree. Sometimes I buy the book twice, like Kindle in the hardback version, just to have it up on my shelf.
I do that with audio and Kindle.
Yeah, I go hardcover and then audio, or audio then hardcover if I really like the audiobook.
Yeah.
Exact same. Yeah.
We should be able to give you the ebook for free if you buy the print book. I would do
Yes,
that.
thank you.
Definitely, I agree.
And I've known indie authors who do offer that. It's pretty cool.
But you have to do it yourself. Like if you're then a lot more work up front, setting up your own store and all that. But Amazon doesn't let me like click a button and say, yeah, if someone buys my paperback, just send them the ebook. If they did, I would absolutely do it. Same for the audio.
Yeah.
Give me $20 for the whole, get everything. You choose, right?
Rumor has it Amazon wants to make money. Yeah.
Well, the only thing close to that they have is what they have, like the Whisper Sync. Like if you buy one of the books or the ebook, then you get the audio a little bit cheaper, something like that.
Right.
I've seen that.
And I
also,
think
why does that sound so creepy? Whisper Sync? I don't know.
So if you turn off the audio, it'll be right in that spot on your Kindle, even if you didn't touch the Kindle. It's kind of creepy.
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
Well, and I'm going, there is some value to going, look, have the book in hand, right? Versus, and then going, actually, it'd be more convenient if I got it on Kindle to go then get it. Like, I get that there's like some value to that, but it does seem, I don't know, it's like, I already bought it, and to have it in all its forms. Davis, is that something like, do you, how have you experienced the kind of like pricing and whatnot of books? I'm sure you have lots of experience on this.
So, I mean, when I started out, it was in 2014, and that was right around the time the 99-cent book deal was a huge winner for a lot of people. And then people started doing omnibuses where they put everything together, price it at 99 cents, and it was all driven by KU reads. And they figured out this algorithm where they could do ads on Facebook, and it would drive tons of readers into that algo. Then after that, it was like do $2.99, and Amazon was actually giving, this is our suggested price for other products of similar size and length and in your genre, and it was always like $3.49. But nowadays, I don't pay as much attention to that price of making it cheap. I think everything I have is $5.99, $6.99. And it's just because I think my book is worth $5.99 or $6.99, or if you're a whale reader and you're on Kindle Unlimited and you just want to download, check it out, that's fine too. But I'm not going to discount the book to give it away at this point, except on those free giveaways.
Again, a good reason to buy the physical book. If the price difference isn't going to be that drastically more, why not have it, man? It's nice to hold.
Yeah, that's why I just buy the physical if it's cheaper.
Yeah. I noticed that Travis Baldry's book, Legends and Latte, the ebook right now I think is $12.99, and that was in the top 100 forever before Travis sold the rights to Tor, and now it's probably like 50,000, 100,000, and the paperback is actually priced less than the ebook right now. I think the paperback is like $10.16 on Amazon.
So
which is ridiculous.
It's crazy. Pull the wool over my eyes. I'm not following.
I see that so much, that with where the paperbacks are almost identical or like a dollar more or a dollar less, and I'm just like, why not just buy the physical book then? I guess. I mean, like,
right? Yeah. At that point.
Yeah, and I know just like a lot of people, like my wife, like is 99% Kindle reader. Like every now and then she'll pick up like, a physical book, but she just prefers it. It's just easy. It's you travel easy with 100 books on you at any given time.
She's a smart woman.
I don't read physical books. If I get a physical book, it's for the shelf. It's I can have the spine behind me when I do a video. It's the only. I don't have shelves here, but I walk in the house. I don't read physical books ever.
See, it's weird. Like when I have physical books, it's like, especially if they have nice covers. I know my wife thinks I'm weird too. I don't sit them that direction. I sit them where you can see the cover. Like I don't know, because it's art. Like he said, like the Kahuna said, it's art to me. I like to look back and see a nice looking picture behind me, or whatnot. But hey, Bryce, I got to get back to work, man. Congratulations on 3,000. You deserve it all and more.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And likewise.
Hell yeah, man. Right. Good luck at work. Nice to meet you, Carol.
Talk to you later.
Thanks for coming.
Finally, he's gone. Now we can really.
Not that guy.
What's funny is, I've gotten really into special editions lately.
Oh, dude.
Really draining all of my money.
I was about to say, that's an expensive hobby.
I got one
Sanderson's
recently.
going to be doing that leather bound for my favorite book of his here soon on Kickstarter. Dude, I'm going to be dead.
I wouldn't touch it though. Like they're so pretty, I would be afraid to touch them.
Yeah. The funny part is, I want to display all the sides of it all the time. So I don't know how you have to buy like 12 of them to like be able to display the And Spencer, you just brought up the one that I just got too. You're like, I want to both display the back of it, but also the side of it, but also look at the sprayed pages. Like this.
Also, let's look at the maps inside if we can.
I know, and then
maps.
It's got such good artwork, dude, all throughout it. It's so cool.
There we go.
What book is that, Spencer?
See, Spencer, that's a smart thing. You have your office in your house. It looks like I have all my nicer books at home. Like I have my the ones I want to talk about and display here. But look at that.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I love stuff like that.
Sword of Kaigen.
I got that 10th anniversary edition of The Name of the Wind recently, and it's not as nice as some special, but it's so nice. I love the way it looks.
Oh man, I have to say I love those versions, but I am boycotting them so hard right now.
Oh no, what happened?
You can't not provide the chapter, and then all of a sudden you got 2 special editions in a short period of time that pissed me off.
But it's so crazy.
It'd be a shame if we got more special editions before we got more books, right?
Yeah.
I also love them.
About George R.R. Martin,
because here's the thing.
The book.
Oh,
here's the thing with him releasing all these special editions and stuff. It's clearly like, and maybe this isn't how it is, but this is just how it comes off to readers. It's like, oh, you need more money, so you're putting out these special editions to be able to have money, but also you're not doing the thing that we all want you to do, which would get you more money. It's just,
John, I will force feed one of those books to you, and I'll hold your eyelids open until you read the first one. After that, you and I can talk.
We're gonna
I-
clock
I've
that
only
over
read
here.
the first one because he hasn't finished it yet. I refuse.
But I wouldn't
Yeah.
assume it's his choice on whether to release these special editions.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right? He's so
Yeah,
Sometimes
know.
it is. Sometimes, like I think he has to sign off, but a lot of the time, I think it's the publishers just wanting to make a quick buck.
Oh, yeah.
one
It's
thing-
like when they release a new cover for like a TV or movie adaptation version. It's like the crappy, almost said it bad, crappy like movie poster edition of the book. I'm like, why would you want the ugly version? I don't know, man. It's
David, what'd you pull up there? What do you got?
Oh, I thought we were pulling out maps. So the one hanging above me is from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
Nice
Trying to get
one.
this in the shot.
nice.
I mean, that's the OG right there.
Yeah,
Like, I
that's
feel like
beautiful.
Lord of the Rings set the standard for fantasy maps. Like, that you can't go wrong with that.
Is that wood? That looks so nice, man.
I know.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's like, I forget what do you call it. It's the
Canvas.
Oh,
Canvas.
yeah.
canvas. There you go.
Very nice canvas.
Beautiful.
So
I
Yeah.
wanted one of
I'll
those
just melt the
maps.
computer.
Have you guys seen those maps that's like a wood rectangle,
Yes, I've
and then
seen
it's
those.
other
They're
little
so-
cutout pieces of wood on
they're
top
like
of it
3D
that show like the
yeah, 3D.
elevation and stuff?
I'd love to
Those
get
are
one of
That's
those.
so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, they look so.
What do you feel about
I can't.
Joe Abercrombie not doing maps? At least I don't. I guess I don't know.
Oh,
him.
does he not?
That's interesting.
I've seen more fan made maps. I don't know if he's ever actually released one.
I was like, I guess I didn't. I've owned all of them except for the new Age of Madness, which I only did on audio. So I'm going. Maybe there might have been. I might have been a
Well,
chance I didn't catch, but
It's a funny thing, and this is very much a personal nitpick with fantasy maps, because I'm a big geography nut. I just love studying different countries and different cultures, and that's an interesting choice to not have a map. But on the one hand, I'm like, no, you should have one. But on the other hand, one of my issues, it's very much a nitpick with A Song of Ice and Fire, is that Westeros just looks like England.
Isn't it just
looks
Europe
like
like
England.
turned upside down or something? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I understand that obviously it's based off of the UK. I know it's wearing its inspiration on its sleeve, but you couldn't have made the shape of the country a little
Yeah.
different. Not be
Also,
quite so
I have
on
a
the
small
nose.
problem with that show. Like it's supposed to be representing the UK, and everybody's teeth are still like intact in the different TV
Oh,
adaptations. I
boy.
don't know, man. It seems a little inauthentic to me.
it's inauthentic.
And Starbucks
Dragons are
cups
fine.
and stuff.
The teeth.
Oh.
The teeth.
Dragons
Ain't
are
that
fine.
right,
People
Governor?
did not have
I-
that good of hygiene.
Also, for anyone not.
Maybe they get dentists from the same place they get dragons.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
And it's funny if I can also comment on the whole name of the wind thing that Spencer brought up as well. It's like, okay, with the special editions, it also kind of feels like for lack of a better term, a manufactured way to try to keep the series in the cultural conversation. It's hiding us over to the next book. Because at least with George R.R. Martin, he has the benefit of Game of Thrones is going to stay in the cultural conversation forever, regardless of whether he releases that book. That show, regardless of how it ended, it made such an impact. Whereas with Name of the Wind, it's like we're trying to keep it talking about it, but until we get new material, there's not a whole much else left to be said, unfortunately.
I agree. Like with George R.R. Martin, he has the advantage because the showrunners behind the what do you call it? What's the new show called again? Why am I
House of the
blanking?
Dragon.
House of the
House of the
Dragon.
Dragon. They did something nigh impossible. They made ex Game of Thrones fans come back after the end of that show.
Yeah.
That's a miracle if there ever was one. Holy smokes!
And what's funny is the D&D, right? The Benioff and Weiss are now doing 3 Body Problem, right?
Are they on that?
But what's funny is I'm actually kind of like, I think it'll be okay because 3 Body Problem is fully finished. Like
But there's
book-wise.
2 versions of that.
They did okay though, like in actually, when there was books to follow, when there were books to follow for George R. R. Martin,
That's
they
a good
did
point.
pretty dang well with Game of Thrones show. It's just when we got past that, so I'm like, it might actually be okay.
People forget that George was also writing for the show up until somewhere in season 4 too.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, man, the writing they added in the show is outside of the book is good. It's like no wonder that maybe because the guy actually wrote. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want
it
the
is-
series to be finished.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
me
is.
too.
Please give me the last 2 books.
Yeah.
I'm weird with the Song of Ice and Fire. I've read the first 3 books. I have not touched books 4 and 5. I may at some point, but like I've enjoyed those 3 books enough that if they're never finished, that's fine. I'll be
Three's
happy
the
with
best
the
one in
memory.
my opinion.
3
Yeah.
is really good.
Funny enough, it was actually originally planned as a trilogy from what I read, and then when he started writing the series, he's like, this is way too much to do 3 books.
I feel like if he played his cards just a little bit differently, he could have ended it with a trilogy. But yeah, obviously he thought he had more stories to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Davis,
It
is
is
that
funny
something-
to see the. It's funny to see the. Yeah, I think Thomas, you mentioned the conversation around King Killer though is kind of dying down because there's not really a whole lot left to talk about. Like people have gone through the books like hundreds of times and talked about all the theories, and it's like, okay, we have all of these theories. A lot of them are very good, but we just need like the next thing to like add into that theory to like, you know, create more theories. And it's just funny. There's YouTube channels that are dedicated to King Killer Chronicles for the most part, and it's like they're just not really putting out a whole lot of content anymore. Like
Right.
look at Captured in Words. His whole channel was based around King Killer, and in the past year he's had to start doing other stuff like gaming and just talking about other books, which is great. I love his channel and I love like anything that he wants to talk about, but I just think it's so interesting that, you know, someone who's so dedicated to King Killer, it's like there's just nothing more we can really talk about unless we rehash the same old stuff. So it's kind of a bummer.
What gets me is then he'll talk about like the stuff beyond, and you're just like, I don't even know why we're even considering like.
Yeah, why are we speculating?
You know, like books that are going to come out after when it's like we gotta get to the,
Yeah.
Like books that have good long-term mysteries always inspire speculation.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, if it's an author who's not putting a book out at least every 2 to 3 years.
Sorry, Janet, I just saw you there.
Oh,
Hey there.
Oh, wow.
Hello, Janet.
Hey,
Hey there.
Words.
Nice to see you all.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, well, thanks for the surprise invite.
Yeah, I was just like a last minute, like, hey, you know, I'll ask, you know, one of my favorite authors of all time to come on and we'll see.
Well, don't stop your discussion of King Killer on my behalf. I read the book.
We were just talking about how it needs a 3rd book and all the speculation. I think that, you know, in some ways, I wonder if he's just frozen because some people have actually come up with better ideas than he had originally. And that happens, you know, believe it or not, a lot. I wouldn't be surprised that, you know, you have a book full of mysteries and how you solve the mysteries. Other people are going to have brighter ideas on how to solve that mystery than the original creator. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is a bit of a kick in the teeth for some people, and certainly
for sure.
him also.
Yeah.
I think like I don't doubt his ability to wrap up the series in a satisfying way or like in a very clever way, but I kind of wonder if he's one of two things. Either he's written himself into a corner where it's like, this is how I originally planned to end the trilogy, but I did this thing in book 2 that doesn't connect very well with that. Maybe that's something that's happened. Or, and I think this is even something that he's alluded to in like his Twitch streams and like interviews and stuff, is that it's not so much fun to write that ending when people have like guessed the ending, because he said like there are theories out there that are pretty much on point, and so it's got to be like, okay, well, yeah, I could write that, and I think he should, whether people guess it or not, because he has just a certain way of doing it that is going to be way better than any theory on Reddit. But I can imagine that for an author, it's kind of like, well, people like have kind of guessed the ending at this point, so it's not as fun for me to like write it out. And I kind of wonder if maybe that's part of what he's going through as well.
Well, you know, sometimes fame can overwhelm. Fame too soon can overwhelm, and you know why. It takes a very strong-willed author not to look at what the fandom is doing and to keep going without paying attention to that. And so if the tug of the adulation is stronger than the desire to write the story, then suddenly you got a conflict of interest going. No, I can't speak for any other writer. I don't know what goes on through their head, but sometimes looking at what the fandom is doing can be detrimental.
So, Janny, do you like? I have a question. If you had to take just a wild stab at it, do you think there's an element that they're worried that no matter what they write, it's going to be a disappointment due to the amount of time it's been and all the built-up expectation? Do you
There are
think they're
1,000 things that can tear a writer off their creativity, because creativity is so delicate. And one of the things that's probably most important is if you have a great idea, don't talk about it. Because somebody is always going to tear it down. And before it is fully formed and you start hearing the detriments, it can lock you in place. So again, your creativity comes from within you. That's the spark. And so being dragged away from that, you're always going to have somebody who doesn't like it. You're always going to have a detrimental fandom. You've arrived when that happens. Unless you're writing something terribly mediocre. And in his case, he's not writing something mediocre. And so if a writer divides their attention, it goes back to that very Taoist line from A Wizard of Earthsea. Why did Ged not lose his magic? Because that was the only thing. The other wizards got dragged off into longevity or immortality or power or whatever. If the focus changes off of the work itself and the writing, it's going to silence the writing.
Yeah, no, that's some good wisdom there.
But it's easy to get paralyzed as a writer because you write this thing and you're going in a certain direction. You can either make your new book like different than the book before, go in a new direction, explore new territory, new themes, or you just kind of rewrite the previous book. And those are your only choices. Do something new or do the old thing over again. And either way, a swath of your audience is going to be pissed off.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, I wanted the other thing again, or no, I wanted something new. You can't make everyone happy. It's literally impossible.
100%.
And that can be paralyzing. Right?
The music industry works like that too. People like bands change, and either they stay the same and eventually they kind of grow sour, or they change and then they lose something that is part of what made them popular to begin with.
Yeah, but unless you're kind of a bastard, and you're like, I don't care if I piss off 1 million people. Because that's the thing. If I do something and everyone hates the romance of my new book, I might piss off 100 people. If Rothfuss pisses off at like a significant percentage of his audience, he's literally pissing off millions of people.
So what?
Yeah.
Vinny, I mean, it's lovely that you're okay with that. Like,
Yeah, you have to be. You have to be, because otherwise your audience stole your voice.
Yes, but a wimpier person has made balk at the thought of pissing off 1 million people. Not wimpier than you.
Oh, come on. We do it every day. You have an opinion, you pissed off 1 million people. How many people are on the planet? It's real easy to piss off 1 million people. If you do nothing, you piss off 1 million people. Silence is complicity. All right? I mean, so why are you worried about pissing off 1 million people? That's part of what you're doing. You're making art. You're supposed to do that. Be dangerous.
Yes.
Thank you, Jenny.
And congratulations, Bryce, for your huge jump in followers. That is fantastic. Nobody deserves it more. I'm really proud of you.
Jenny, can
thank
you
you.
get Pat on the phone?
Can you get him on this live
Let's get
stream?
him in here. Just get him into the live stream.
I don't need to hear this. I'm writing books, but maybe.
Oh,
So, Danny, I wanted to ask you. This year is your year, as far as I'm concerned. You are culminating the most epic series, in my opinion, of all time. It is just amazing. And I'm not going to ask you what are you doing next, because that's got to be the most annoying question to all authors. But what are you feeling just in this year, this moment, going through these, with the final book of the Wars of Light and Shadow? How are you feeling right now?
After 50 years of work and planning. It was a 5-decade project. It was designed to be a long form. I set out to do certain goals, and let me tell you, if I'd listened to the detractors, if I'd listened to the publishers, if I'd listened to my audience, if I'd listened to the silence, because I wrote these books in such deep obscurity, I would put out a new one to practically silence. 1, 2 comments, 3 comments. I'm on a little private forum at Paravia. The greater audience for fantasy hasn't discovered them yet. So if I had to learn to grow a thick skin to get through the war, to get through all of the publishing changes, that could be as hard a pressure as too much audience, which can actually curve what you're doing. So how do I feel? I won the war. It's a triumph. Out of every setback that was thrown at me, publishers merging, losing my editor, being kicked out, being told don't bother finishing this, to being told your numbers aren't making the price, to pay for the size of the books, to just abandon this, to go write YA if you want to make a living at this. I survived all of it. And so how do I feel is that I accomplished every goal I set out to do. And now the proof is in the pudding. And if I piss off 1 million people, great. If 1 million people like it, I'm set for life. So, it's out there. I did it. And so there is no describing that feeling when I finished the final line of the final draft, the rough draft, even just getting the whole thing down. I said, I didn't die. I didn't not finished. I wasn't discouraged. I didn't let anybody stop me. And that was an indescribable feeling. And it's going to only go forward from here because now I get to watch the readership it was written for discover it.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing is I feel like there's been a huge resurgence just in the last year of people reading Janny Wirtz. I could not be more happy about this. But the same for the other authors that are on here too, because like when I see people, like it's just you guys are just so. It's just amazing what you do. I tried writing just some creative stuff for a little bit, and I'd like to keep pursuing it, but it is like terrible. Anything that I've written, and to put like your soul out there to the world is just amazing to me, because that is a part of it's this part of you that's it. I don't know. It's just
very,
so deep
very
down
personal
and so personal. And I'm just seeing that I feel like there's a Janny Wirtz moment that's happening, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and I'm loving it. How I guess, are you seeing that too, Janny? Are you seeing, I'm just seeing just blog after blog, do read along and do all these things.
It's like suddenly breaking my eardrums from being silent. It's like, oh my gosh, people are discovering the work. But the fun part is that where the silence is breaking is in the earlier half of the series, and 3 other templates haven't dropped yet.
Yeah.
So when that surge, when it reaches the end of what the big series is, or when it reaches the backlist, it's going to be dizzying, because what I set out to do on page 1 is you're not going to see it until the perspective is there to see it, and that you go back to book 1 and it's all there. Yeah. So it will be a real interesting couple of years watching this unwind, but I'm thrilled, because there was many a day when I said, I'm just finishing this because I'm just gratefully determined that this is what I set out to do, and I'm going to finish it. Whatever, I'm going to finish it. So
holy hot damn, I've never I'll claim ignorance here. I didn't know who you were until now. I'm looking at your Amazon page here. Holy hot damn, woman, you've written a lot of books.
Yeah. 20 novels and a short story collection, but a lot of people tagged me as the Empire collaborator, and that's if they even got to the collaboration. That's all the further they saw. There's so much more, because I really write for a different audience than that.
So I started reading Janny's books with the Empire, and I still contend that Mara is one of the greatest characters ever written. And in Rings of Power, the way they created Galadriel, I hated that creation, and I always thought they should have asked Janny, how do you create a strong female queen who never wields a sword? Look for Mara. She already did it 40 years ago. And so I have read her books since the 80s, and I have had 3 of the Cycle of Fire omnibuses, and I've always lost them in moves, and I keep looking for another copy so I can recollect it. But yeah, her books are fantastic.
Thank you. I didn't know anyone here had been following since the 80s. That's really heartwarming.
I was born in the 90s. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage.
I read the Empire books when they came out.
My favorite is probably Cycle of Fire, and then To Ride Hell's Chasm was fantastic as well. And so was Master of Whitestorm. So I'll stop right there. I've read a lot of your books.
Well, the series is the deep end, and so I'll be really interested to see how that's received. Nico is finished song. He got his review copy 4 days ago. So watch for Nico.
That's awesome.
And if you guys, if you know people who might be receptive to my work, let me know, because I can try to muscle publicity to get on the stick and send you stuff, or I can mail it if it isn't, I'm sort of mailing out books here and there, and it isn't that I'm ignoring people, it's that I'm trying to pick people who are interested. And you guys have TBR piles to the sky, so.
And I only own book 1, but I'm diving into it in May.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I own book 1 as well.
I've had people offer to send me books of theirs that they've written so I could talk about it, and I'm like, I appreciate the gesture, but at the same time, I'm here because I want to promote and edify and appreciate all the hard work that so many amazing authors have put into their work. And I feel if it feels disingenuous, at least in my own soul, if they send it to me like for free on behalf of in that endeavor. I'm like, I want to appreciate you guys without the incentive, because then it's more genuine.
It can also be pressuring for somebody to send you a book, then you feel obligated. So I'm cool.
Yeah.
Nisha Merlin went under owing me 5 figures, and when they went bankrupt, I inherited all the stock.
That's true.
So I've got copies of books that I can afford to send.
I've been struggling to find your books.
That's the other problem. If there's a reviewer wants to get it and they can't get it because the distribution from across the pond is lagging, then ask me.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Good to know.
I just always get intimidated slightly. I'm just like, I feel like I'm asking for too much or something. I don't know.
Be bold.
I'm going to breathe fire on you because you asked for a book. Come on.
Turn.
I was a reader long before I was a writer, and I watch you guys' channels, but you don't know I'm there because I don't necessarily sign in and comment. But I've listened to hours of you guys talking books while I'm drawing. And I love it because I have read so many books all across the boards.
When I've noticed you will review a lot of like indie authors, Jenny. I just see your reviews out there for a lot, and you're just really a backbone of the reading community, the science fiction fantasy.
I love it. I love stories. I'll read anything.
I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation. I'm sorry, I gotta hop off.
That's all right.
Hey, thank you so much.
COVID birthday
Nice
dinner.
to meet you.
All right. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
All.
Appreciate
Hey,
it,
thank you, brother. I look forward to
Everybody
checking your
subscribe to
channel.
Kindles and Kicks
Yeah.
right now.
Thank you.
Great.
Will do.
Sweet.
And then there was 9.
I have a question for the authors here.
Let the darkness bind them.
I have a question for the authors here.
Lisa, yeah.
Does it bother you if someone brings to a signing or something, like a used copy? As an author, does that bother you?
Bring it. Bring it.
I went to a signing and the author just refused to sign it because it was a
Oh
library
no, really? Wow.
They refused
And
to sign
I've
what?
gotten rid of all of their books.
Like I have a friend of mine. He's not an author, but he signs. Like he's famous enough. He signs stuff for people. He's like,
Yeah.
I'll sign almost anything outside of explicit body part. I'll sign. I don't care.
Right. I just always like to get authors' opinions because some people are just weird when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Some people are people and some people are a-holes. What can you say? And if you bring a battered copy or a used copy to get signed and somebody treats you badly, that's on them.
Yeah.
Honestly, but I would sign it. I would happily sign it.
Shadow Book 1 is from a used bookseller because I can't get it anywhere where I live.
I don't know. It's funny because I personally kind of like books that have a little wear and tear to them because to me, because I'm the kind of reader who I like to write in the margins of my books. I like to make notes. I like to make comments. I do that personally because I like personalizing it. I like having a little piece of myself in it. I mean, but that's just me. That's just me. If I bought like a special edition, I would definitely like keep that pristine and like behind glass or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I agree. If I love a book, I'll get the special edition and then I'll read the crap out of that paperback or that hardback edition.
Right.
If I'm
I have
keeping it,
outside
I
of
do
that.
it. Yeah.
That being said, I don't write in my books.
I hope what I said was not just sacrilegious that I like to write in my books, but
No, I do it.
People do it, man.
Get him out of here.
I do it.
I'm gonna need a minute.
You should see my French textbook when I was in high school. I learned that if you took an eraser to it, you could erase the print.
Yeah.
And every single copy, every single photograph or picture or drawing in that book, I erased things and redrew stuff over the top of it and twisted it.
I'm so glad that wasn't just a thing when I was in high school. Oh,
That, and did you ever do the little animation on the pages of like your history textbooks?
Yep.
I wasn't.
That's all they were
good
good for.
But
The little flip books, yeah.
I still have my law school book that we had to write in the pages, and my professor even made us leave our books out so she could check if we were writing enough.
Oh no!
Wow.
Oh, I had one of those. Yeah, they asked to see your notes, so I drew full color margins. I had full color margins. I had fairies, and I had dragons, and I had little men having wars, and and the notes were all in the middle of that, but the drawings were in full color.
I feel like your teachers actually had expectations for you. They just told us to stop boxing in the back of class.
I had to write notes in my copy editing book when I was in my journalism school.
David, were you going to say something? I mean,
Oh yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt, but I do have a question for the authors here. I was wondering, do you guys, at what point do you know you're ready to send a draft off to the editor? Like, at what point do you say, I've done enough here, it'll never be perfect, and just let it go? Because I know that's something I struggle with. So I'm curious for people who have published a bunch of books. How do you guys deal with that?
I'll give you my answer since all the more accomplished authors are staying quiet. I book a slot with my editor ahead of time, and then I write the book, and then I know it's due. So this book I'm writing now is due on March 25th. So on March 24th, it's going to have to be ready.
When I can read it backwards, page by page. No, I don't mean read the sentences backwards. I mean when I read the last page, then the second last page, the third last page, and I don't see any more corrections. That's when it's finished.
But but like there are authors, there's a huge continuum across authors of how you go about it, right? I don't think there are authors who will make a book as good as they possibly can and release it only then, right? And then, but most authors, especially the ones who are more commercially minded, trying to make money as an indie writer today, are not doing that. They're kind of saying, all right, if I spend 2 months on this, if you're trying to release 10 books a year, you're not trying to polish it to the point where it's as good as it will ever be. You can't pump out 10 books a year if you're doing that. It's like literally not possible. So you're trying to meet the expectations of your particular audience. And it's a different way of writing. And I'm not saying it's bad or good or whatever. But I mean, if you look at the pulp writers, a lot of the pulp writers doing the same thing. They were writing one draft and sending it to the markets to sell. And it was only if they couldn't sell it that they'd write a second draft. Like L. Ron Hubbard, right, was kind of famous for that advice. So like it depends on what kind of writer you are or what kind of writer you want to be.
Joe, I think it has to do with who you're listening to. Is it your voice? In which case, when you're finished because it's your voice. Is it your audience that you're writing for?
Look,
Is
if
it
I
your?
don't sell enough books, I'm fine. I can pay my mortgage. I have a day job. But if I had to feed my kids off what I was writing, voice is great. And I have a book that I want to write, but I don't have the time. I don't know that I would have the time to make that book if I needed to make a mortgage payment and pay like a grocery bill off those sales. Like those are different lives.
But that's the metric that you would be measuring, is making a living at it and paying that mortgage and feeding your kids. Depends what metric you're launching off is
Right.
when you know it's done.
Right. But I personally will that's not, I'm trying to write things that last for generations, right? Which probably failing, but that's the goal. So I don't chunk out a book in 6 weeks to sell. But again, I'm privileged in that I have a day job where I don't need the money. In fact, I can lose tons, and I do, and it's fine because.
Well, I think it depends on the individual a little bit too, because I've known some very high-profile authors. A few used to be my neighbors, and then I've met a lot of indie authors throughout the years. And some of them in both quadrants, some of them first draft almost publication ready. Like first drafts, they're just there already. And even some very high level professionals, they're not even barely readable until second or third draft. And honestly, partially depends on where your skill level is there.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Some people really can write really well on their very first draft, and I'm not one of them. I have no idea how they do it. It's like sorcery or something. And for me, it's I'm sort of in Joe's situation where I'm trying to write what I would want to read, and so I want to write something that I really enjoy, and so I know it's done when I'm going through it and I'm just returning to a phrase that I used in the last draft, and it's like I'm just flipping words around. Then I know it's done because on that particular day, that sentence looked right and spelt right when I wrote it that way. But then 2 days later, I liked it the first way again. I know I'm done.
You can over edit a book. I've had a couple friends point that out to me. It's like, yeah, I over edited that one book. It took out some of the flavor, some of the vision.
I always like my music. I don't know. We've gotten into kind of blending, I think, a lot of different creative things in this live stream here. But like, I've liked my music a little unpolished, right, and a little like, I don't know, not perfect.
Not quite to the degree of like black metal where they recorded in a trash can across the street, but not quite as polished as modern pop. So
is there? But I mean, I guess is there like a level of that? I feel like some of you authors like can't possibly be unpolished. You're just so good at what you do, and you're turning your phrases and all that. I just kind of throwing that together. And does it work also in like, with the artwork that you do, like Janny, like does her own artwork?
What? You do your own artwork?
Yeah.
You're just like a friend of mine, R.H. Snow. She has done like 186 illustrations to put throughout her romance, futuristic, sci-fi, Western books, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys, like, some of you are so talented, it's irritating.
That was a blurb on Danny's books for a long time from Stephen R. Donaldson. I don't know if Bryce remembers that.
Yeah.
But it was something along the lines of it should be illegal to be as talented as works. Something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a great quote. It's such a good quote.
If I may ask a question specifically of the authors as well, I'm curious. This is a very common one, so I apologize. But I'm just curious for you all. What do you do when you hit writer's block or a creative, just kind of, you open up your computer or you open up your notebook and you're just like, I see Joe's answer. But yeah, what do you all do to kind of overcome that hump?
If you want the 5-minute lecture, it can be a problem of 3 different levels. The first level is the easiest one. You're trying to create and destroy at the same time. When you're drafting, there is no inhibition whatsoever. You write, and you don't care if it's garbage. You turn off the inner critic, and you do not edit. You do not edit, because the editor is the destroyer. And if you're trying to do both at the same time, you're going to lock your wheels. That's the simplest level. Let somebody else speak, but there's several other layers to that. When you know it's not that problem, it could be something else, or it could be something else. But let somebody else contribute.
In my own experience, I've written 2 books, one of which was deleted by my ex-wife and erased from history, and one of which I got rid of on my own because it wasn't something I wanted to share with the world. Alas, in my own experience, it was if I consistently found myself getting stuck, it was because I didn't know where I needed to go next, or I was bouncing around too much. So in some cases, having a really thorough or good outline can help alleviate the question of where do I go from here. At least that's what I've experienced.
Makes sense.
But that's very individual. Like, there are people who an outline paralyzes them, and there are people where an outline enables them, and you just have to, and an individual writer will sometimes change over time. Like Stephen King's a pantser, and I'm like, I can't argue. His style would not work for me. If I tried to write the way he did, I would just, nothing would come. So you just have to figure out what works for you. But I usually find that if I hit writer's block, it's because I wrote myself into a corner. It's usually means I have to go back and delete 2 pages, and then I'm fine. Because it's usually I've gotten myself in a conversation where like these people are arguing and they're discussing something, and the tone isn't quite right. The information is revealed at the wrong pace, and I can't figure out what comes next because nothing leads from there naturally on to follow my outline. And if I go back and like cut 2 pages and redo that section, then I'm good. And otherwise, I don't have a plan. So that
I let my beta readers and my critique partner find all my mistakes. Like I'll just ignore them. It's like, I'll deal with it later.
I sometimes write a different section. You know, a book is linear. You read through, and if I'm in a portion where on that particular day I don't feel like writing that scene, I may write a different scene. Or if I've reached the end of my outline, I may start outlining, because what I found is when I try to outline a book, what oftentimes happens is that when I start writing, I deviate from the outline, and at a certain point, what I have outlined is not workable anymore, and so then I have to just redo the outline from, you know, where I caught up to moving forward. Or like I said, I just write a completely different scene that I just am in the mood for at that time.
Is it a little scary to kind of like publish book 1 in the series, or books 1 through 3, and knowing that you still have more books to write in the series, going, all right, I've now cut off the ability to foreshadow from the beginning, right? Or the ability to, you know, or if I wanted to kind of whatever, change it up. Is that a little scary? Is there like some of that's, I guess, preventing like our Rothfuses and our George R. Martins from moving forward?
People forget that creativity is not logical.
Yeah.
Creativity is intuitive. And so when you try to apply logic to creativity, it's going to freeze your wheels right there.
Yeah.
What you need to do is don't worry about, I just painted myself into a corner and I can't foreshadow this, because your subconscious mind knows already what you put down and knows how to use that. So you set a pin in the map and say, I want to end up here. You don't have to know how you're going to get there. That's what the intuitive moment and the illuminative moment, you leap the gap. That's what inspiration is. You go from here, from nothing to there. And when you look back in hindsight, now logic is going to work. But if you forget that creativity is intuitive, if you forget that you don't need to know how to get there, that will be supplied, your brain will solve that problem. So don't worry about it. And people lock up that way because they don't understand the difference between intuitive creativity and editing, where you're applying logic and you're cleaning it up. So that intuitive spark of inspiration always comes out of the blue.
Really
and you have
does.
to leave room from that. You have to leave room for that.
You have to have faith that it's going to happen. I didn't realize when I first started writing that those things happened. It's like I discovered it in the middle of my first book that I wrote. But what Janny was talking about is absolutely true. If you have faith that that inner spark that made you want to write in the first place will lead you to where you need to go, and just trust it will happen. And those places where you think you're locked into a corner, you aren't. You can work that corner into your advantage. It's pretty cool when it happens. It's one of my favorite parts of writing, is where I know I want to get to and where I am, and then you never think you're going to get there, and somehow you get there. It's just really cool, especially when you take a loopy, windy road that's completely different than what you thought you were going to follow.
I love that, because I used to be in a former life. I was a swimmer. I did play basketball in high school, but I was a swimmer into college, and I would, read some of those books. Like there's one called The Inner Game of Tennis, and a lot of it is about, you got to trust your body. Your body, that's how you can learn, is you just got to kind of trust to some degree. You can't think through everything. Right. And there's been a lot of books about thinking fast and slow, and how our brain kind of works in two different ways. I love that, like, creativity is something that is, trust yourself a little bit too, like trust that it's going to get there. I love this idea of trust you've gotten to this place in your life. You've had the experiences that you've had to this point. Have a little trust in that. And I love that way to put it.
Also,
You
I
need
think
to think too. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're good. I think it speaks to the creative instinct. I'm sure some of other people have written, especially people who have written more than me, will have felt this at some point. It's some of the best writing that you've ever made didn't feel like it came from you. It felt like you were kind of receiving it rather than something that came directly out of you. Like a good friend of mine, some of his best writing that he put in his second book came straight out of a dream. Like he had a dream, he wrote it down, went straight into the book, almost unedited, and it was some of the best writing he ever did. Now, not to say that everybody gets their good writing from dreams, but it does feel like it comes from a different place than yourself sometimes. At least that's what I've experienced.
Sometimes people luck because they're boring themselves.
Yeah.
And that's another layer that you got to write this scene and it's freaking dull and you don't want to. You want to do something interesting. So bring in some spark of something that's going to shake the room up.
Right.
Then a monster.
Yeah, or change points of view or whatever. But if you're boring yourself, that's going to kill your muse faster than anything. So if you've over planned it, that can happen. If you over outline, suddenly all the sparks are gone because you planned it all out. Now, what's the fun of writing it? Because you know everything.
Right.
The thrill is when you don't know everything and it pops out of nowhere.
That's a good point.
I appreciate all your input.
Well, I've had a lot of years wrestling with this to have figured it out.
I've had somewhat less, but
oh, and that's all. Here we have a good question here. I like this.
Yeah.
To the authors, and through the pages with D, definitely go subscribe. If you could write in a different genre to which you write in now, what would it be and why? And then we'll get into. There's a question for the booktubers too.
If I could write in a different genre, it would be science fiction because that was my first love. Growing up, I always wanted to be an astronaut, but that wasn't in the cards because I was a Mr. Magoo growing up. I had really thick glasses and they wouldn't let you be an astronaut then. But that's what I would write as science fiction.
Well, there's Michael Crichton. It's like I adore a lot of his books because he makes you feel like you can understand this stuff.
Yeah.
For me, as much as I admire that writing style, it's not. I don't think it's in me to be able to write something like that. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with writing in that style or any other. It's just it's a different beast for someone like me.
Yeah, and you could have admiration for it and still go, I'm not going to be able to do that.
I've got a science background, but if I could write in a different genre and was good at it, so I think I could be good at science fiction, but I know I can't be good at romance. But I would love to be able to write romance. The people that write romance at a high level, I'm just in awe of how well they can do characterization, like right from the get-go.
Yeah.
First paragraph, it's like, how the hell did you do that? I mean, it takes me pages to do sometimes what they can do in 3 sentences. And so if I could do something really well, I would love to be able to write a great romance.
They are not afraid to let the emotion all over the page.
No,
and in 3 sentences, the men that read it and they're terribly afraid of letting those feelings be seen. So look at that. I'm sure you could write brilliant romance, but you'd have to probably go to some very uncomfortable places that culturally you've been taught not to.
I probably
So
would.
Alicia went bingo.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't want to go to those places.
Yeah, so you need to get in touch with feelings and not be afraid to show them off.
That's actually not quite my problem. It's I'm usually emotionally drained at the end of every day, and so my writing is my safe place to re-energize. But at the end of the day, I'm emotionally wiped out.
Oh, no.
I don't know as I've ever talked to a person that wrote brilliant romance where they didn't say their writing didn't wipe them out when they were done.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It emotionally wrings them dry. Yep. So you're coming from the opposite direction.
I'm from the totally opposite direction. I wake up pretty good. End of the day, I am pretty done.
Yeah,
Jenny, I want to know how you get. I mean, there's the emotion in a romantic sense, but how do you get the emotion in a non-romantic sense? Because that's what I read from your books, is where I am drained emotionally, in not even. I mean, in just from love of characters for just supporting their good friend. Is it similar? Is it the same? You know, is it?
It depends on what, but it usually appeals to some inner instinct or inner desire we have for connection and or heroism. Different things in different books for different people.
My answer
Like
would have been
Stormlight-
different there, but that's all right.
Oh no, go
I
ahead,
think
go
it
ahead.
has to do with the fire, the passion that's behind living. Whatever situation that character is in, where is the passion sitting? Where's the fire? Where's what's trying to douse that fire? Where's the piece of grit, the piece of sand? Where's the painful thing that's either preventing or enabling? Or you have a character that's a hero in one scene, and then in another, their heroic qualities are exactly the wrong thing, and they become the villain because. So, I'm not afraid to grab onto that fire and the passion, and people hate me for it because they say you walk into the room and you disrupt everything.
Was that a cat?
It is not restrained, all right.
My cat.
Makes sense.
just like Gray Tail, just like whoop.
So, people looking for authors like Robin Hobb, Carol Berg, Janney, and Lois Bujold. Do you have any other recommendations, preferably from the 90s?
R.M. Melick, Jerusalem Fire. Holy crow, that is amazing. Karen Lawachi,
I said Melanie.
War Child. I could go on.
Yeah.
Let somebody else, but yeah, there's a lot of them.
J.B. Jones.
I actually found you, Jenny, through my friend P.L. Stewart. He recommended
cool.
you to me.
I'm reading his book right now.
Bill. Great author too.
I'm reading Drowned Kingdom currently.
I'm on the third one. I'll be interviewing him on my channel.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's not afraid to take chances. When you get the half point of Drowned Kingdom, the book just explodes.
Yeah,
so
he
all
won't
that
let me-
build up.
He won't let me pay for the next one because it's supposed to come out on my birthday. So he's sending.
Oh, sweet.
Aw.
That's just good
He's
timing,
not letting
ain't
me
it?
pay for the newest
Well,
one.
I have read the next one. It's a game changer. It's amazing.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
What was that series called again? Sorry, I'm trying to.
Drowned Kingdom.
Drowned Kingdom.
Drowned Kingdom.
Yeah.
Alright.
He takes the bull by the horns and he handles prejudice. He handles bigotry. He handles a very, very, very flawed character with just enough zest for life and just enough heroic honor that you love him and you hate him. You want to rip him apart on one page, and he's going to slam you between the eyes on a lot of flaws that are systemic
Literally.
to our society. He's going to do it. He's going to piss you off. You're going to hate the guy, and you're going to love him. So it's a conflicted character. It's a conflicted point of view. It's frustrating, and it's an absolutely beautiful work of art because he's not afraid to rough off some feelings.
Oh yeah, well it's interesting. Like a lot of authors, they want a character with flaws, but very superficial. Like like maybe he doesn't eat meat or something terrible like that. But,
Bad fashion
like,
sense.
it's interesting when an author actually goes all the way. It's like one author I read about recently. His character is basically like previously was his world's version of Stalin. And that's the main POV that you're following. You're like, oh, this is going to be different, ain't it? All right, sure, let's go.
Yeah, I wrote in my review of the first book, you're gonna want to throat punch him on multiple occasions, but he does slowly grow on you.
Oh, Dukin!
But you literally want to throat punch him a couple times.
A couple. A couple.
Yeah.
It's like it's also relative in some ways too, because like a Game of Thrones, your average Game of Thrones character is going in most settings is going to be a terrible human being, but then like maybe in their setting, maybe not. There's a level of relativity there as well. It's interesting to see how different series.
The difference between the Game of Thrones is often like what King will do if he can't scare you in a subtle way. He'll go for the splatter. And I think Martin is the same way. If he can't get you with the intrigue and the clever stuff, he'll get you by punching your face out, just knocking something off. And he does it for the shock value. Paul doesn't do it for the shock value. He does it to shock the foundations of what you see every day in life, and you've just put a callus over. And he hits you between the eyes on it, and he wants the reader to be uncomfortable. And yet
he puts you in there.
He does his battle scene with a sort of Conan-like joy, and that curries favor with. So there's just enough crazy joy in it too. That's so. Paul's not doing it for shock value. He's doing it for something else, and he's not reaching it just to hit you on the page. He has a very, very planned effort in mind, and I can't wait to see where he finishes out the series.
Oh yeah, no, and
I'll have to check it out.
As
It's-
a read,
it's
yeah, I'm looking at the
amazing.
series right now. Interesting covers, cool stuff.
You have to
I'm looking forward
complete
to it.
book one, and all of what he does in the first half of book one is important because that's what makes the second half of it so powerful.
Yeah.
So just you have to read the whole book.
You have to.
Mhm.
There is
I have
no
so many
choice.
tabs in that first book. It's not even.
This is not consensual. Read the
Well,
book.
he shows a very flawed character view of his own society, and it's bigoted. And it's so bigoted, and it does what bigots do. They repeat themselves. They talk themselves out of what they're actually seeing. And so it feels that in some places like, come on, this story is going in a circular direction. But when this character's world falls apart in a drowned kingdom, I haven't given anything away. Okay?
No,
Bad
When
things
his world
happen in the
blows
book.
apart and he has to take this rigid bigotry and come up against suddenly a survival tale, it's a powerful story. But he's not going to let you off the hook with that bigotry. It's just not going to be faked.
It's called the Drowned Kingdom, right? That's book one.
Yes, the whole series called The Drowned Kingdom. The first book is called The Drowned Kingdom as well.
Okay.
And this is book
There's a question here.
3.
3, yeah.
Yeah, the second one, the last of the Atlanteans, it tells you pretty much what you're sort of reading. So I'm not spoiling anything by saying this character's world blows apart. That's the whole point. But that whole lead up of that bigoted view of I come from the best, most advanced kingdom in the world, and we are the center of the universe. You have to go through that to go through what happens next.
The real shock is if he wrote about Atlantis and it didn't sink.
Now that would be a
It ascended.
Also unrelated,
That's my
but
book.
book 2 has the best cover of the 3 so far.
I love that cover.
That's a great cover.
Yeah, and also going back to a comment that was made earlier, I appreciate authors who have the boldness to write genuinely flawed characters because I feel like in pop culture we've kind of misunderstood the term anti-hero, where when you see like marketing for like big budget movies and whatnot, they just kind of say like, oh yeah, you know, he's such an anti-hero, and I'm kind of like, okay, he's just basically a good guy who murders people who were going to murder him anyway. So I don't really consider him to be an anti-hero, whereas, yeah, you have someone who is prejudiced in some way or has a selfish motivation. Like that's closer to what an anti-hero should be, right?
Yeah, but readers hate him. Look how much hate you get for Thomas Covenant. Holly Tinsley writes a brilliant anti-hero in Men of Ash. We Men of Ash and Shadow.
Yeah.
Gorgeously done, but you know.
Any Joe
I've just been
Abercrombie
talking
book,
with-
I hate a lot of those characters by the end of those.
Covenant
Right,
Park is
right.
small.
Oh,
Thank you.
woo! There we go.
Yeah.
We need some more woo representation.
So did you blow out 3,000 candles today?
I know.
I would love
3,000
All
cupcakes.
morning.
He actually lined them all up and just clapped down the whole line.
Oh man.
that's
Oh
awesome.
yeah. Here. I think we went over this, but David, yeah, we went. It says Lord of the Rings.
Oh, it's Middle Earth. Yeah.
Good map.
I
Having
just read Lord of the Rings for the first time last year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, no,
finished.
there's a
Return of
reason.
the
There's a
King.
reason it's foundational.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I just finished Return of the King for the third time, so
I
yeah.
will read it because I just watched the first film and I realized how much I don't remember from last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Also
gotta
for,
I gotta keep going with it because I read Fellowship of the Ring for the first time last year, and I started the Two Towers, but then I had to read something else for the podcast, and so I haven't gone back to Two Towers yet. But I was surprised. Like I really liked Fellowship of the Ring. I think I put it off for a long time because I don't read a whole lot of classic fantasy or anything. I don't know, anything older than like Wheel of Time is like I don't typically read books that old.
no Michael Moorcock. None of that?
No.
Oh no.
John Carter Hart, Conan.
But
Robert E. Howard, the goat of prose.
they usually just don't like really click with me, and so I wasn't entirely sure
There's
that I was
plenty of
gonna
books
like.
that would, but they're buried.
Yeah.
And even Lord of the Rings. I mean, I said a lot of people bounce off of it because they come from a more urbanized culture, and they go, "Oh my gosh, I can't stand all these descriptions of trees." But if you go back to before there were cell phones,
It's a great description of trees, at least.
well, we didn't have those things. The woods was our magic, and so for me, it was magic to read that stuff because I came from a very unelectronic beginning. My first manuscripts were handwritten. And then done on a portable Royal typewriter, not even electrified, that I bought at a secondhand stall and had refurbished. My entire first, second, third novels were written on that thing. So
That's awesome.
it was a different cultural mindset. And I think a lot of today's readers are disconnected from the natural world. And so it rings false to them and they won't let themselves sink into it. So it doesn't feel like magic to them because their magic was something else growing up.
Well, there's a reason the meme "Go touch grass" is so popular these days.
Right.
Well, and Janie Wirtz is the definition of write what you know. Like the amount of things that she does in the world, she like keeps bees and tries to keep bees alive because they are dying, and like it, is like what do you play the bagpipes, right?
Yeah, I've been known to do that.
Very
awesome.
Irish, you Miss Lassie.
No, Scottish warpipe.
Oh, close enough.
Awesome.
But like is out in nature, right? And I feel like that is a lot of what like I read somewhere that like J.R. Tolkien, people did actually struggle going on like a walk with him because he would like literally just go like enjoy a tree and be like, let's talk about this tree.
That's awesome.
Well, read Robert Frost. Read some of the poets of that era.
Yeah, Robert Frost was my favorite.
So yeah, it's a difference in what we value as a society, and frankly, it's kind of scary because that world supports this one, and people are afraid to get out. I mean, okay, I've done a lot of wilderness, and I've done a lot of offshore sailing, and I've done a lot of really rugged stuff.
Yeah.
Playing as the only woman in 3 different pipe bands when women didn't do that. But when I stepped into search and rescue 10 years ago, I was horrified because the metric that they handed us was if there's a lost person in Florida, they give them 24 hours before we're searching for a deader. And I'm going, are you kidding me? People don't have enough common sense survival awareness to last more than 24 hours in a climate that is pretty mild, except for the extreme heat in the summer and the occasional cold snap in the winter.
Right.
I was shocked. That was 24 hours, nothing when I was growing up. So it's like, how did we get so divorced from the ability to just make a common sense decision? 24 hours is a really short time.
I blame cable news.
So it's like the metric of
only thing, nothing else. How's it?
What is safe, what isn't safe, what you can do to save yourself. We're so divorced from our very animal beingness. We've lost our instincts.
Oh yeah.
And your instincts would have told you what to do to survive more than 24 hours in the wild out here.
Right.
So it comes down to how long ago did their cell phone battery die?
I know.
Yeah.
And I find that terrifying.
Yeah.
And that's one of the themes that, tying back to Tolkien that I really like about his work is that's a whole running theme, of course, through the whole Lord of the Rings is the turn of the century moving into more, of an industrial culture. And then you've got World War I, World War II that hyper jumped us into the future. And yeah, it's really cool to go back to a story that was written as those things
were happening. Well, imagine he had to fight for his life in a world war where he saw a beautiful green landscape get absolutely cratered and totally, completely wiped out and destroyed. What would that do to your heart? And he lost his best friends in that war.
Yeah.
They talk about the cost of land during World War I. It wasn't in dollars; it's in lives. Something like.
But I mean, if you looked at the photographs, everything is like completely gone. The trees are gone. It's nothing but barbed wire and mud. It's horrific, And so what he went through, you can see reflections of that. You can see him reaching for why. He's going all the way back to the glorification of war in the Eddas, where he got a lot of his early inspiration before the reality of war actually hit him. And so there's so much depth in his works and so much exploration of the archetypes in his works. And people are writing it off because they're afraid of a few words and they can't stand to pause for a description of nature because we've become that disconnected.
Yeah. And I think, that's it's sad too, because I've also noticed this with a lot of, and I don't mean to throw people under the bus, but with like a lot of the books that get popular nowadays, I hate to say it, but you're not going to see like a 1,000-page book blow up on Book Talk. I'm sorry. You're not going to see books of like that length and that depth and density get that kind of publicity, because we've kind of moved into more of a I need my fix right now. Just tell me what tropes are in the book so I can get to that and I'll be satisfied. And for me, it's like, but you can't boil down a book to just the tropes. It's so much more than that. Like,
but 1,000-page books have always been the like the old classic fantasy that we were talking about, the Moorcock, Zelazny. Those were 200-page books.
That's true.
A lot of them were short stories, and they were
330 is at the
And then you have Islandia, and then you have some of the big chonkers. You've got Gormenghast, you've got Mervyn Peake. Come on, fantasies come all different lengths. The trick is that mainstream has moved in, and where we had a niche market, where a niche group of people used to read this stuff, and they'd get together and they would have very deep conversations. Now we're contending with all of the ills of thousands, because fantasy's everywhere now.
Yeah.
And so you got to keep going back to, at any time in history, 4% of the people had or read 100% of the books. So when you say these people don't have the patience for it, well, they're reading Danielle Steele and Jodi Picoult. All right. So there's always been that. And that's fine. That's great. I'm happy for anyone that discovers enjoyment out of a book. Everybody needs to escape this reality and work outside the envelope. But do most readers sit down and really want to knuckle under and explore something new? Most people don't want anything new. It's threatening. It threatens your survival. It's not what the pack is doing, and it's dangerous.
That's why I occasionally will just pick up a random book that I don't even suspect I'll like, just in the hopes that maybe I'll discover something new. Turns out Wolf Girl wasn't for me, but
yeah,
was that from Book Talk as well?
Like new adults, like female misperception romance, a supernatural romance. Nope, turns out not for me. But I laughed. It was a good.
But go read The Scorpio Races by Maggie Steveter.
That was going to be my recommendation.
Brilliant book.
Okay.
So yeah, you and I think alike in some ways. I don't like to see people disparage a book. It's like when you said, I once in a while pick up a book I know I'm not going to like. How do you frame your opinion? Right now, you can't pick up a book where you don't have the entire internet screaming at you with opinions, reviews, stars. What's everybody talking about? We didn't have any of that. We had to steer by our wits. We went in and went to a library or a bookstore or a used bookstall, and we browsed the book. We chose by what was in the first paragraph or flipped open a page, or there was nobody else's opinion. It was you and the book and nothing else. So try browsing sometime where you know nothing. You just go read about this book or pick up copies in a used bookstall, and don't look on the internet to see what everybody else thought, because you're going to discover the books that really speak to you, because somewhere along the line somebody else's opinion has already formed something in your mind before you ever open a cover.
Yeah.
Well, I've every time I go to a bookstore, I'm always keeping an eye out for at least one book that will capture me in title or in cover.
Right.
And not always, but more often than not, I'll enjoy that book. Now, what was that series called again? Just so I don't lose it here, I'm trying to type it up here on Amazon.
It's a standalone, as far as I know. It's
a standalone book.
Scorpion.
It's called The Scorpio Races. Takes place in November. It's a really good fall read right after Halloween. It's a powerfully written book, and it's just
There we
as
go. Okay.
dark and mythic and human. Great characters. It's just a wonderful book.
I
It's
need to
phenomenal.
try
Mr. Right
that.
Horses, it's a huge plus.
I need to try that, like just going in dark on something, because my problem is I get too I even tell people on my channel, I go, look, my ratings are gonna generally end up on the higher side because I'm looking for books I'm going to like, and I don't even know if I can read all of those ones in my lifetime. And so I'm actively trying to find and not being afraid to DNF if it's just not working for me.
Right.
Well, Maggie's a really popular author. She's known for YA. This book is marketed as YA. It is not YA.
It's not.
Not at all.
Yeah, I've seen
It
a
is
lot of
gloriously savage.
I've seen a lot of YA being
So
less
don't
YA like
look
recently.
at who her readership is. Don't read the reviews. Just blind order the title
All right, it's on my list.
and get it.
Consider
And
it
then
done.
just read it and don't read anybody's opinion. It's like, I go back to a really funny story. I had my father, I handed him a Elizabeth Lowell book. I used to read all his thrillers, and I used to read his stuff. And so I said to Dad, read this book, and it was Elizabeth Lowell's Tell Me No Lies. And it's a romance. She's marketed to death as a romance writer, but that book is more or less a thriller. It's written like a thriller. It reads like a thriller. It has sex scenes just like the thrillers do. My dad loved it. And the funny thing was, the ricochet, he went into the bookstore and asked for more books by Elizabeth Lowell. And he discovered she was a through and through romance writer. And then look on his face when he came home and he said, "Do you know what you did to me? Do you know what the clerk looked at me when I asked?" And I'm cracking up. And I said, "Yeah, but you loved the book, didn't you?"
That's all that
It's
matters.
like when I was a
That's
teenager
what
and I got
matters,
into
yeah.
the Janet Ivanovich books.
Yeah.
Just because my mom had them around. She's like, "Hey, try reading these books." And later I'm like, "These books are not appropriate for children." Anyway, moving on. I'm reading these books, maybe partially for that. Anyway, I'm reading them.
The Janet Ivanovich books are based in my hometown.
Oh my
that's
gosh.
so funny.
So it's really funny.
But yeah, to comment also something that Bryce said. That's something that is funny, that you kind of, there is a weird pressure as a reviewer to try to conform to what everyone else's opinion is. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if it didn't speak to me, it didn't speak to me. And if it spoke to me and everybody else says it's trash, well, that they're entitled to that opinion. But it's funny because I think my channel is kind of the same way, in that most of my reviews are positive, but that's because I usually don't finish books that I don't like. And I don't give them reviews. I just say, well, I didn't finish it, and I move on. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I don't want to be the kind of reviewer who just trashes things for the sake of trashing it because it's a popular thing to dunk on. I want to be genuine in my opinions, and sure, maybe that doesn't get you as many subscribers at the end of the day when you're
Definitely
not trend
doesn't.
chasing. But
I really have a lot of admiration for you guys who do booktube, because it's a hard line to tread. Because you can't survive the algorithm if you don't have subscribers. You don't get conversation. You're doing it not just because you love reading, but you're doing it also to be social with the community.
Right.
And if you only read books that nobody else has read, there's no conversation, there's no spark, there's no endorsement, there's no community. So it's a hard choice to make. Do you lead the pack? Do you follow it? Do you stay where it's comfortable?
Yeah.
And
it's like, do you only do one kind of content, or do you branch out? For me, I decided as soon as I made my channel, I'm like, I'm going to do kind of a large variety. I'm going to do what I want, and then YouTube's going to hate it, and it'll bury me in the algorithm, but it doesn't matter. I got to do, if I'm not
But
doing
you'll
what
find
I
your
want.
people, and that's what I've learned over the past year doing this.
Yeah.
One of my favorite compliments I got when I did my top 100 fantasy books was people were just like, "I just discovered a ton of books. They are not on everybody's lists."
Yeah.
Right.
I thought that was so much, like, that was the best compliment I think I could have gotten. That was just like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's pretty fun. I have been reading for quite some time. Not that I'm the fastest reader. I can't read like 300 a year or something, but staying consistent, I think, is just part of being a reader. As you learn, you're just consistent. Even just a couple pages a day, you'll finish stuff. And I think there's a big lesson in that in life.
Yeah.
And then you meet
Regarding
people,
the
and then you meet other people through those people. Like I
Hey,
found
Timo,
Bryce
what's up,
through
brother?
Bonnie, of all people. I found you through Bonnie. She was like, "You'll love him." Okay.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, I was looking at Matt's comment there.
Go
ahead.
I want to comment on what Thomas was talking about, because I think I have a slightly different take on reviews from Bryce and Thomas here, because we do a mix of positive and negative reviews. I would say probably 75% positive and maybe 25% negative. And I think for us, we kind of have the idea of we want to stay genuine to whatever we thought of the book, whether it's a really popular book and we hated it, or it's like a hated book that we loved. We want to stay true to like what we're putting out there.
And I even think even if you DNF'd it, hey, give a reason why you didn't DNF'd it. I want to know as a reader, why did that happen? Absolutely.
I personally don't do DNF reviews, because usually when I DNF something, it's because I don't I wouldn't have enough to say about it. But like even the negative reviews, like somebody mentioned, if you're gonna if you didn't like a book, like why finish it? I kind of take the idea of, like, let's say I'm halfway into a book and I'm like, I'm not really enjoying this, but I think I have enough to say about it where I could write a review and kind of like look at all the different reasons why I didn't like it. And I think that would be a good conversation. And so I'll finish the book that I'm not enjoying really, in order to have more content for the review in the end, and be like, hey, this book wasn't for me. I read it all the way through, and these are the things that I can kind of pick to like give my review on. And I think we do that because I don't know if you guys have ever seen How I Met Your Mother, and there's that episode where Marshall is he's like, I got my stamp of approval and I'm putting my stamp of approval on everything, and Lily is like, well, if you put your stamp of approval on everything, then your stamp of approval doesn't mean anything. And he's like, oh, and so that was kind of like that's kind of how we think of our reviews. Like I don't know. I think, oof, God, it's kind of hard to talk about, but like I feel like if you are just super, super positive about everything, then there's no like elevation difference between reviews, or at least that's kind of how we view ours.
Are you mocking the 5-star strumpets?
What's that?
You're mocking the 5-star strumpets?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
I used to be like that. Like, I like the book, 5 stars. Like the book, but I read 109 books last year.
They're all 5 stars, really? Yeah.
Right. I do appreciate that Spencer, because I do agree with you, because I think the most important thing at the end of the day is to just be authentic, like, and don't try to say something just because you think it'll get you more clicks or it'll get you more likes, but just be authentic. And like Alicia was saying, even when your channel is a huge variety like Kahuna, you do get a niche of people eventually. Like, it was so funny. I've kind of recently discovered that military science fiction is one of my favorite genres just out there. I love Starship Troopers, Forever War, the video games, Halo, Mass Effect, all that.
The Halo books are underrated.
Yeah, and I want to get to those. And I've recently discovered that there's kind of an untapped section of BookTube on military science fiction. And so I've been able to kind of carve out a little niche for myself talking about that genre specifically. And, it's one of those things where as soon as you start to think the space is too oversaturated, I can't get an audience, you'll find something. Just keep making content. And you'll start to figure out what you gravitate towards and what your audience gravitates towards.
Also, it looks like some of us may be leaving here in a second. I don't want to rush anyone.
Yeah, I gotta pop out. I'm sorry.
And I was probably going to wrap it up soon anyway, so we can maybe kind of use this as a chance. What's funny is I was actually going to say not only Halo, but the Gears of War books. Have you read any of those?
I haven't read those. I forgot they even had books of those.
I forgot they existed.
So
I'll have to check that out.
Speaking of video game books, if you guys haven't read the Assassin's Creed books, they're actually really good. They're like surprisingly good.
They were good. Yeah.
Make a note of.
I read Revelations. That was a good book.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
That's what I think my crowning achievement, I think, as a book reader has been to not have forced reading on my kids, but that they have gotten to reading, and now it's like we used to read books together, and now they're like, Dad, they got their own TBRs to deal with now. And I curse them with the curse of having a large TBR, but I love it so
And it's
much.
not going to end.
That's all they want to do.
Mine are young enough; they're not quite reading on their own that much yet. So I'm lucky. But yeah,
the trick I've found,
They
you
will
can't push it on them. You just let it happen.
Yeah.
Organically. But I just want to tell you guys, I cannot thank you. This has been such a fun time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for putting this on.
Just a great excuse to and I just didn't feel like I was like, I can't talk when there's all these great, amazing thoughts out there that are being said. Like, you guys are just amazing. It's just an honor to know you, that you even came on to celebrate with me and have some fun here. And I loved your opinions. I would love to do something like this again. And anyway, I cannot thank you. Did anyone else? And I'll let you guys kind of, Alicia.
Well, congratulations to you. Thanks you for everything. Thank you for rescuing me from working through another Saturday afternoon.
Good job.
It's the weekend. I shouldn't be drawing, okay?
Yes, I just want to say, Bryce, thank you for putting this on, because frankly, you were the only person that I knew going into this call, but it's been so great to learn about these other YouTube channels and be introduced to these authors. This is my first time being introduced to all of y'all, so I'll be sure to check out your channels and to check out your books as well. I really appreciate all of the insight and thoughts. I see
okay,
it there,
Joe. Now I can connect you with your cover. Yeah, I've seen your book all over the place. Haven't read it yet.
So good.
Yeah, Bryce,
So good, Kenny.
I want to hop in with saying, first of all, congrats on 3K, because I don't think I've said that yet. Like, man, that is such a huge achievement. Like, even us just trying to get to 1K, it has been so incredibly difficult.
It's the hardest.
So, man, it's awesome to see you cross that line, and you totally deserve it. You're such a huge positive influence on the community. Like, every time I see you post anything, it's always something super positive and like well thought out. And so I love following your content, whether it's on YouTube or just your posts on Twitter and stuff. It's always great. So I really appreciate you.
And likewise, absolutely. Gosh, well, and just thanks everyone. Anyone else have anything last minute to say? And I'll end this. I seriously cannot thank you enough. Go subscribe, buy their books, do it all, because they're just great people.
Like, truth be told, I didn't even know Bryce that well. I followed your channel. I said, hey, maybe we should collaborate sometime, and I didn't know anybody else on the panel. But you guys have all been very wise and insightful and very good conversationalists. I've had a blast. So, guys, thank you for having me on here, even though I'm maybe outside the normal demographic here.
Thanks for being here.
Oh man, no, thanks to everyone. We'll end it there. Thank you so much for stopping by, and just appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who's just come to the channel over these last couple of years and just made it a blast to be able to talk about stuff that we love so much. So let's keep it going. All right, thank you. Bye.
See you.
Bye.
See y'all.
Woo!